Okay, new update. This would be day number 2 and day number 3. So this past weekend, Mike and I worked on this for probably a total of 12 hours. So we'll lump the 2 days together because, the first day, Saturday, we didn't make a lot of progress. We ran into some issues. But let's just walk through what we all did. The most basic thing is that we got this car cleaned up. So you see that there's the floor is fairly clean, not a lot of dirt in it anymore, and it's easier to work with now. We can actually lay on the ground without being scared of being poked by a nail or a screw or something like that. Second thing is that we got the back open. So what had happened is, let's see. Okay, I need 2 hands to do this, but let me see if I can do it with one. Here you go. I've got it to open. So last time we couldn't get it to open. It turns out it wasn't really the problem with the latch. The latch is perfectly fine. It's actually works quite well. But the problem was the gasket was so melted that it acted as basically a piece of glue or a layer of glue that glued the top of the hatch to the bottom. So we couldn't get it open, so I had to pry it open with force. So that was not very good because I actually thought I was going to break the hatch for a moment there. But while we're here, what we tried to do is take out the gas, the fuel tank. The problem that we ran into, we didn't actually get it removed because some of this, the clamps up here look fine, but on the bottom you can't really see it that well. So if you can imagine, right? So there's a piece of tubing that goes down there, and then if we come to the other side down here, it attaches. There's the gas tank down here. You can't see it at all, but it attaches down there. So the clamp for that was totally rusted, and this piece of plastic was so hard that we were afraid that we were going to break it. And if we break it, this piece apparently is really difficult to find, and it cost at least $100. So we said, forget it. So what we ended up doing is putting a camera into the gas tank and looked around, and it was actually pretty good. So we should have probably just done that in the first place. So that took us about 3 to 4 hours to figure out, trying to get the gas tank off, messing around with the clamp, and a lot of time wasted on that. So that was very fun, but at least we know that the gas tank is good. Now the second issue that we were working on relative to the gas tank is the fuel line. So the problem we had was, actually, let me come down here and show you. It's actually pretty interesting. All right, you see here. These are the 2 fuel lines. One is the pressure line, and the other is the return line. But something that they did before that we don't like, and we're probably going to change, is here. You see this fitting here? So apparently they fitted 2 separate pieces of piping together, but this is a point of failure. So we're probably going to have to rip this line out and have to replace it at some point. We might leave it for now, but that's a potential issue that we'll have to address. All right, so moving on. Let's get out of here. Okay, clean inside. All right, so then if we move up, we see that the gas, that's one of the fuel lines sticking up. That's the return line, and the main pressure line is down here. It's a little bit rusted, so you can see that here. It comes up here, and it's going to eventually go from here, from here, all the way around to the fuel rail, which I'll show you here in a second. And then it's going to go through the fuel rail, and then it's going to return here. So now let's go look at the fuel rail. It's actually pretty simple. This is it. So that's really all that it is. It's just a piece of aluminum extruded, and there's the tubing inside, and the 6 fuel injectors just sit right through these holes. And how it's going to go on is that it's going to go right here. Pretty straightforward. much cleaner than what we had before, which was the complicated mess that we had. All right. The other main thing that we did was take out the braking system. So you got the booster here, and then you have your master cylinder here. So I think what we're gonna have to do is either rebuild this master cylinder, but it actually looks pretty good inside. You can't really see, but this is the piece that came out of it, and it's rather clean. But what we were afraid of is what we can't see in the middle. We might have to rebuild it or just buy a separate part. But this we definitely have to rebuild because this thing is getting pretty old, and we're just not sure that if it works or not. So where that came from is over here. So the booster was sitting right there. The master cylinder was sitting right in front of it, and it was connected to the brake pedal, of course. So the other thing you probably noticed is that a lot of the wiring, all of the wiring harness is out, right? So the gauge was here, it's no longer here. You don't see any wiring moving through the body anymore. So the center console had a painless wiring box sitting right there. So that's been removed, and you notice that there's no more wiring really anywhere, right? So you have your pressurized brake lines, but you don't see any wire around. So we took all that out. What we're going to try to do is to just purchase an entire wire harness from Godzilla Raceworks and then hook it up. And hopefully they build it correctly, because sometimes, you know, it comes built incorrectly, and that's going to be very painful. So what we're debating is to use a pre-wired harness, or the junk that's in this box, right? You see the fuse box there, and this really old wiring harness just at the bottom of this box, which that would probably be very painful to use. So we said, forget it. We're just gonna buy new. And a lot of random stuff here. So this is spark plugs that goes on the rail. Not spark plugs, the fuel injectors. You got your pressure gauge that goes on the rail that I just showed you. What else is here? Yeah, so you got your fuel pressure regulator. So it's all part of the fuel rail, right? So it has to control the pressure. We're not gonna mess with the turbo right now. The turbo is sitting right here, and we'll mess with that during the tuning process, which will come later. Now, I think that's generally about it. I think we did a lot of disassembling this past weekend, purchasing of parts, and the next few weeks we'll look to put it back together and see if we can potentially get it running on its own, and then get it into the shop to be tuned. So that would be pretty exciting. Maybe I'm being overly optimistic. That might not happen for maybe another 2 to 3 months. I'm not sure. But we made some progress, not as much. We spent about 12 hours, got a lot of stuff off. Still more to come.